All right, now let's get into this tier list. What is everyone's prediction? Who is going to end up at the very, very top? I'm going to put my classical music on in case someone pisses me off, and then I'll be calm. Shall we start with the bottom tier or top tier first, chat? Start bottom tier? Okay. Let's start with the bottom tier. All the way at, I don't think we need that D tier, do we? No, delete row. We only need this. So bottom up, we'll start with the worst god in the game at the moment, which is Hades. Now you might ask why, and it's pretty simple. He doesn't have much going for him. They took everything that he had. They took away Cyclops, they took away Resto, and now, most recently, they took away Sarissa. So what does this mean for Hades? This simply means now that you have to be significantly better than your opponent to win, or outplay them way more than before. Because before, Sarissa was like a crutch, and Resto was a crutch, you know, but now he doesn't have either of those things to rely on as easily. So unfortunately, current patch, worst god, goes to our boy Hades. Next up, we have Set. Set is joining Hades in the C tier, ladies and gents. Why, you might ask? Set has been repeatedly stripped from the goods. The only thing he has going for himself right now is Sekhmet, Citadel Center. And is that enough for you to win a game? Maybe sometimes, but more often than not, you have to play way better than your opponent to win with this god. So I'm placing Set C tier. Unfortunately, he's a very skill expressive god, but you know, not quite there compared to other gods right now. Do we have any other gods at C tier? Let me see. I do not believe we do. I do not believe we do. I think we're good with the C tier gods. Now, joining us at B tier, our very first god, Poseidon. Poseidon now does not have much. With this new Civ being released, they have a hard counter for the only thing that Poseidon relies on to actually win a game, which is centaurs. Centaurs are unusable in the new matchup against China. So it's quite unfortunate situation is finding himself in this patch. One would say lure buffs. Well, the 10 favor I save by casting my lure. One could say, like, you know, do you want the food? Or do you want Spirit to charge? Or do you want another Centaur? Do you want Sylvan Lore? You know what I mean? You cannot justify spending that much favor as Greek on that god power when you are on a timer to inflict damage onto your opponent. So, yeah, very sad state currently. Not to mention, their heroes are still abysmal. But hopefully we will see some changes. Greek needs some love desperately, so maybe down the path we'll see it. Next up, joining my boy Poseidon will be Zeus. This is like, you know that meme where they say, "Oh, they massacred my boy," you know? Zeus is who I think of when I see that meme. King of the, like, he was king of Midgard, king of Karlauger, Anatolia, any water map, any hybrid map, any water map, king. Best there was. Now, nothing compared to what he was. Scylla got nerfed, Resto got nerfed, Sarisa got nerfed. He doesn't have much going for him anymore. He's still okay. I'd say he's still the strongest out of the Greeks, but it's still not good. It's not enough. You know what I'm saying? He needs some love desperately. Only thing he has going for him is that hoplite movement speed buff or bonus, which is 4.9 movement speed hoplites. They're amazing, don't get me wrong, but with the Sarisa nerf, he's not quite there anymore. He's now a shadow of what he used to be. Very sad. Hopefully, we'll see some love for him as well. Shedding a tear right now. Anyway, moving on. Do I want to place anyone else in the B tier, perhaps in League? One would argue Odin deserves to be tier, and I would probably, I think with the recent buffs and nerfs all around, Odin has crept up all the way from the bottom tier up to B tier, and potentially even A tier. But since there's lack of games on him at the moment, we will simply leave him in B tier, and maybe next patch or down the line, a week or two, maybe 3, we'll see how he's faring. But currently, I feel like he's in a good state, he's happy, and he's going to be doing well in this current meta because of all the Egyptian nerfs, all the Greek nerfs, which is mainly what he used to struggle against. And with this being said, I think we have concluded our B tier. Next up on our A tier, the very first god I want to put there is actually going to be, drumroll please, Kronos. Kronos is basically super solid all-arounder. He gets a bit of everything, except for the Murmillos. That's where he's lacking. But he will do pretty much fine into any matchup that isn't Norse. But even against Norse, he can find a win here and there through cheesing. But he's in a fine state at the moment. He does really well into China, and he's just overall very much chilling in this patch. Happy. Nothing too oppressive about him. Nothing too bad about him. So he's in a fine position right now. So I would put him in A tier. Following that, I believe we have our second A tier god, which I would say is boom. Right there. Isis. She has fallen from S tier. No surprises there, right? The repeat nerfs, no Sekhmet, Chariot Archers getting hit, Desert Wind getting hit, Migdol's getting hit. That's like, she doesn't have the tool, she doesn't have the ability to use barracks units as well as Ra or Set does. She relies too heavily on Migdol units. And with Son of Osiris nerfs, with Mummy nerfs, with Migdol nerfs, Chariot nerfs, and not having access to very strong barracks units, she's bumped down. Definitely, for sure, for sure. Still, a very good ISIS player can still make ISIS work. I'm not saying she's not viable anymore. I'm saying she's balanced. She isn't overpowered anymore. So let me know if you disagree with this one. Because I think this is where she belongs now. Yes. Following Isis, we will be throwing Shenong. Shenong right now, although he is a new god, I've gotten some time to look at games, watching people play him. I haven't played him too much myself, played one game, lost, said fuck this god, move on. But after watching a bit, I see there's a lot of hidden potential there. I personally believe Shenong is the strongest Chinese god in the late game. Why, you might ask? He has the best minor gods for late game. He can go through the best options to have the strongest late game out of all. And with the paired bonus of having myth units available to you every 50 favor or every X amount of favor, ridiculous. You're getting free resources, and as you expand and get more favored land, you'll end up getting an extra 500 resources per minute, if not more sometimes. So it's a lot of eco you're getting for free, and plus your prosperous seeds, farms, like you're just chilling, you're having a grand old time. I think Shenong needs to be explored a bit more. I think he has potential to be all the way up here. But for now, since it's still unexplored and there are still some other things that needs to be worked on, we're going to leave him at the bottom of 8 here. Yeah, that's my reasoning behind this one. Next up in the 8 here, we have none other than our favorite god, Uranus. And I believe he's at the top of 8 here. Not at the bottom, not in the middle, but at the top of 8 here. With the recent nerfs to basically everything except for Norse. Norse did get a slight nerf, like a tap on the shoulder. But Uranus can still do fine. Uranus does well against every other god, especially China, now that they're out. But he struggles a little bit against Norse. So for now, I believe his rightful place is in the 8 here. He has access to Oceanus and Prometheus, which are the two main classical age minor gods for Atlantean that you want to go through. It's very versatile, and the Sky Passage is being buffed as well. Makes him super, like, he can be even more aggressive than he was before because they don't cost nearly as much. And the fact that he has Theia and Hyperion, which is the best two minor gods for heroic, makes him ridiculously strong. So what that means is, but one would say, oh, but what about Mythic Ages? Mythic Age is lacking. Listen to me, you motherfucker. You don't need to go Mythic Ages Uranus. Just stay in Heroic and win the game there. You don't need to go Mythic as Uranus. You can end the game in Heroic almost against every other god in the game. Mythic Age more often than not, does not give you much. So just stay in Heroic, pair-wise, all your fucking units instead of spending it on Mythic Age, and just A-move into your opponent's base and you'll win. His Mythic is okay, don't get me wrong, but you don't need to go Mythic. So if your worry is, oh, he doesn't have the proper minor gods for Mythic, well, you don't need it. So, but yeah, top of 8 here. Anyone disagree with this one? Let me know. Yeah, oh yeah, one thing. If you do happen to get to late game with Uranus, I think Uranus is probably top 3 best late game gods in the game. Why, you might ask? I'm not gonna tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you. It's because Sky Passages. Sky Passages are the strongest tool a good Uranus player will, like, what differs a good Uranus player from a great Uranus player is the Sky Passage usage and late game. You can stall games for an insanely amount. Like, you can stall games until you get back in them. You can't really get gold starved if you're being cheeky with your Sky Passages. And once it hits late game and you're both on an even ground, basically have a teleport whenever you wanted. You can hit 2 fronts. If they rotate, you go to the other front. Lots of things you can do. You can sneak in citizens here and there, grab a back Sky Passage and flank them. Lots of things you can do. So Uranus late game, definitely top 3 in my opinion. Next up in the 8 here, who would I like to place here? This one I might catch quite a bit of hate for, but it's potentially raw. Now, don't get me wrong. Raw is strong. Just me putting him at 8 here doesn't mean that bad. He's still very strong. It's just that now you actually need more than 2 brain cells to actually play him because of all the nerfs he's been getting, right? But he's still strong, don't get me wrong. Sphinx got slightly nerfed. The monuments got slightly nerfed. The Migdos got nerfed. The Son of Osiris got nerfed. The camels got nerfed. The chariots got nerfed. So everything about Egyptian got nerfed, right? So his now you need to rely more on your skills than you did before to edge out a victory. Unless you're against Norse. Norse you'll have an easier time with thanks to your Ptah Axemen or Sphinx, because they have a difficult time with the Sphinx, but they did get movement speed nerfs, so they should have an easier time now. But nonetheless, I think Ra there next to Uranos makes perfect sense to me. So let's move on from Ra. I believe I would like to place this guy next, and I think he's going to go. You guys surprised about this one? You guys surprised? I might be a little surprised, but I think Fuji is S tier. Why? He has every tool you need, in theory, to win a game. He has the aggression, he has the economy, he has the units, he has the heroes, he has the god powers, he has everything. He has a complete kit. He's very strong. Hard to pilot. Hard to pilot. I will say that. He's the most difficult Chinese god to play, I would say. To extract maximum value from his kit, you need to be very good. Which is why I can't play this god, because I suck. Now, is he the only S tier? Of course not, man. We have another S tier coming up, and that is Gaia. And Gaia is actually ahead of Fuji. Gaia currently has everything. Every single thing you could ask for, you have it in your kit. You have an insane economy, you have really strong units, you have really good god powers, you have really good myth units, you have insane, what's it called? Pressure on the map with your Contenders, and if all goes south, you have your Fanatics late game, you have your Implode, you have your Bite of the Shark, and with the Rhea now, if you ever find yourself going against late game god, then it's a safe map. Taking into Rhea and getting those upgrades for Fanatics and Murmillos, late game means you're unkillable because they will be so tanky and do so much damage. But yeah, Gaia is the strongest Atlantean. Super, super good. Super strong. Okay, moving on from Gaia. Now this one might come as a surprise for a lot of people. But we have this guy right here. Freyr. I have been saying for months, Freyr deserves to be S tier. Freyr is insane. People just don't know how to use him. And more recently, people are starting to accept the fact that Freyr is just really, really, really good. And that's like this god, if you can master it and understand it and fully utilize the stuff, I don't think he can actually lose a matchup in the game if played properly. That's a big if. Requires a ton of skill to use him, and is unlike any other Norse. You're not as timing based as they are, because you're always minutes behind. Let's say if you're a Loki player and you try to do a same timing as Loki on Freyr, you'll most likely lose the game because of it. Freyr needs more patience, more understanding of the game state, the game flow, and then you will extract the maximum value out of Freyr once you understand those things. Next one up, I would say it's actually, boom, Nuwa. We have Nuwa up in the S tier. No surprises there. She's been dominating the ladder. dominating in most hands. Uh, she's really, really good, but she's not as good as Fuji. What's making her slightly stronger right now than Fuji overall is the hero Kwafu and the god powers, the Earth Wall. If Fuji had access to Earth Wall, I think Fuji would be insane. Nevertheless, we're still here, and currently Nuwa is slightly better than Fuji and easier to play as well. So that's why it's also up there. Yeah, she has a lot of tools, but the problem is the units are just not it for China at the moment. Their units are lackluster. What's carrying China are their god powers right now. Once those god powers, I'm sure they will get nerfed. Once those god powers are out, within 2 patches, 3 patches, I don't think China will be played that much anymore. They will feel too weak. That's my prediction. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Another thing about China is, out of every single civ, I've played all the civs, and out of every single civ, China has by far the hardest macro to learn. They are the most difficult to macro properly because you have to do insanely quick tech switches while also macroing for those switches and unit switches. And it's like the costs of units are all over the place. So it's very, very hard. But I'm sure as we play, we'll figure out the proper macro down the line. I'm starting to get a feel for it. That's it for Yuan China. Moving on, we have chat. Are we surprised about this? Thor being up there? I'm not. This was a long time coming, no? Thor has been completely dominating these past few patches. What's kept him down is Egyptians, right? What's made him somewhat contained, still not contained by the way, but somewhat contained, were the Egyptians. But now that that's gone, Loki has free reign. Thor, sorry. Thor has free reign. He can do whatever he wants. He's extremely good into China, extremely good into Greek, very good into Atlantean, very, very good into Atlantean, and is pretty damn good against Greek as well. So he doesn't have any weaknesses anymore. Sure, they nerfed him, but that they nerfed the others even harder. So you have to take relative. You have to understand how relative it is to the game, right? If they nerf Thor and buff everything else, then sure, Thor becomes weak. But if they nerf Thor and nerf everything else, Thor's still gonna be the same. Thor's still going to be strong. But comparing Thor to Egyptian, where Egyptian got hit the hardest, Thor is now the king. So it's very good time. You have the best time as Thor. You have infinite gold, crazy amounts of favor. You can do whatever the fuck you want. 5.3 speed berserks, beating any other infantry almost besides Murmillos. Can even beat Cav, archers, whatever you want. Healing Spring is insane. But yeah, there are ways you can beat Thor as any civ, but then you just have to be better. It's gonna come down to that. Now, for the single strongest god in the game, we have Loki. We have found ourselves back to Loki being the strongest god. This happened a while ago as well, but now he's back to being the strongest. He has every single tool to deal with every single god. He has insane eco because he's Norse, right? He has insane units, insane god powers. Like he's just the best all around. Like Norse, you have so many. He's so versatile and so strong in every regard. But yeah, that's where I would place him. And this is my tier list so far for this patch. Hope you guys enjoyed. Drop a sub, a like, a comment, leave some feedback. Let me know what you think of this tier list. And yeah, anyways, thanks. Bye.